Hello, UELMA. I'm here to tell you a few quick tips and tricks on having a grant in your pocket at all times, ready to go after those grants that might come up to get some more materials for your students. And no matter how big your budget, how big or small your budget is, it's probably not big enough to get all that you want to get for your students. And so I've found some simple ways to just be prepared for that opportunity when a grant might arise, so that you don't have to spend too much time getting ready to submit your application for it, but you're already halfway there. So here's a few of my tips and tricks. First, where do grants come from? Who gives them? How do we find them? There's so many resources for getting grants. Here's a few that I've worked with and just looked for. I use Donors Choose quite a bit. I have a grant project up almost all the time. If it doesn't get funded, that's okay, and I move on to the next one. There's great lists at the ALA and AASL websites of grants. If you are near a Walmart or a Sam's Club, they have local community grants, and you can applying for those. I've actually received some of those as well for summer reading programs and things like that. Dollar General has a literacy foundation that provides grants. They have an open calendar time each year. And then we know that there are great opportunities given to us from the Utah State Library. Those are fantastic grants to apply for. Why should you want to get grants, and why should you be prepared? I'm going to have you look at this comic on this slide here. You can just pause the video and take a moment to read that. Okay, so if you've unpaused the video, hopefully you've read through the comic. I think it's just great. This applies to so much more than just receiving a grant, but an opportunity for anything can come up at any time. You just have to be ready for it. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to find something awesome just by talking with somebody, just having an opportunity for that. So I think it's best just to be prepared for all aspects of life, right? But just in this instance, to be prepared to get a grant for your library. So how to do that, some ways to find out about how grants come about, where they are. Here's a couple of ideas. There is an awesome statewide email listserv, and here is the information for joining that. If you haven't joined that, a lot of information comes through those emails. If you take the moment to read the email, you might just see right there, maybe on a small line, hey, an opportunity to apply for this grant, as well as other great things come off of this listserv. Social media groups about school libraries, whether just here in Utah, the UELMA has a great group, as well as national groups might be talking about places they've applied for grants, and you can even ask those kinds of questions. And I found some interesting information there just by participating and paying attention. Helpful to mark deadlines for grant windows on your calendar each year. So for instance, every March opens up Dollar General's youth literacy grant, and so I have it marked on my calendar. This is when it opens and this is when it closes, and then I know I'm prepared to apply for it if I want to. And then the other thing I have just kind of learned is to always have a Donors Choose project live. Donors Choose is really easy to use. Teachers use it all the time. Librarians can use it too. You can structure it in so many different ways, but I found that not everything is going to get funded, and that's fine. But if you have a project live, every once in a while, a really big company like Google, for instance, will log on and just fund them all. And that's fantastic. So awesome. That happened to me. And once that happened, I was like, oh, I'm going to always have one on here just in case, right? You're not asking for things that you don't need. You're asking for things that will help your students. Books you might not be able to afford for your library, but would be just great if you had the set of. So here's a couple of ideas on how I structure that, how I make my Donors Choose grants ready to go. I I use Amazon just to make my wish lists. You can use whatever you want, obviously. But if you can see here on the slide, I screenshotted just my wish list section. And so I actually make a list and title it very specifically so I know what it is. And I make a wish list there of something I would put into a grant. So on this example, my kids are just eating up manga right now. They just love it. And I have, you know, what I could have, but I would love to have more. And so, for instance, I went and put this whole series on the list, and that'll be the whole project because it comes to about $400 to get all of those books. So I create the wish list and I have them all separated there. And then I tell myself whether it's in planning stages or whether it's been funded or whether it's been rejected. Or whether it's been totally ordered. And so I keep them on there just in case, you know, just in case I need it later. I might clean it off a year or two down the road, but I just keep them on there at all times. And I do that for a lot of different things, not just for a graphic novel set, which are awesome, but for enhancing my science nonfiction. I can't afford to get everything that's been published in the last couple of years, but I can make a wish list of the things I think would be the best for my teachers and students. And then when the opportunity comes, I'm ready to put a grant online. Other little tips for that is to make your donors choose and then understand what it's really for. The library services so much more than just literature and writing and literacy. We definitely do that. But do you service your economics classes? Do you service history classes? Do you service social and emotional learning? You absolutely do. I think every book can be qualified as something that helps with social emotional learning. So depending on how you've structured that project, what kind of books that you're asking for, don't have to be books necessarily, but for a library they often are. But are they hitting those needs? Are they for special education students? Are they for foreign language learners? That kind of thing. So don't limit yourself to just literacy. You are the library and you are promoting literacy, but you're also promoting so much more and many other subject areas. So I like to make my lists. When I make lists like this, I make them specific in different subject areas. So if I'm going to focus on building up my historical reference section, then I might do that all in one chunk and not just a smattering of things, but keep it together. And then on here, I can choose that I'm supporting history and geography as well as literacy. Does that make sense? I think it's just been very helpful, especially with social emotional learning being such a huge thing. I've made sure to select books that are very specific to reaching those needs, and then I'm able to select that subject area on Donors Choose as well. So last little tips, don't overthink it, just spend a little bit of time on it. Practice will get you going much faster. You can't win all of the grants. That would be so neat, but you have to share sometimes. But don't overdo it. Don't spend, you know, your whole workday on it. Just a little bit of time can help you get ready for that grant when the opportunity arises. Have a great day.